This afternoon, I would like to talk to you all about the key to overcoming. And what I'm going to talk to you about is about overcoming in general, but the information that I'm going to share will be specifically with one problem in mind. And so I'm going to show you some things about this problem, and I would like you to try to guess and see what you think this is. This affects approximately 18.8 million Americans. And if you think that's a lot of people, you'll think this is more. Everyone will be affected by it at some time in their life. Either they will have this problem, or they will know someone with this problem. At least 4% of preschoolers suffer from it, and it's increasing at a rate of 23% in children. So, to me, I care a lot about children, so I think this is an important problem to get rid of, and that's why I'm talking about it today. 15% of the population of most developed countries suffer from it, so it's not just Americans, it's countries around the world. And something interesting is that 54% of people believe it results from personal weakness. Okay? And this makes sense with the next statistic, which says that 41% of women are embarrassed to seek treatment because most people think that it's a sign of weakness. And 80% of individuals are not currently receiving treatment because 80% of individuals don't want to admit that they have this problem. And not only is this a problem with what people think of you, but it's also a health problem. It contributes to coronary heart disease, and it's also a financial problem. Okay, this costs $51 billion per year for businesses because it causes people to miss work, to not be able to make it, and that causes businesses to lose $51 billion per year. So, can anyone guess what this problem is?
Depression.
Yeah. Depression. Okay, so what is depression? I can tell you some symptoms of depression. It's a persistent sad or anxious or empty mood. There's feelings of pessimism or hopelessness, sometimes feelings of guilt or worthlessness, helplessness, loss of interest or pleasure in hobbies, activities, lower energy, or feeling like you're being slowed down, like you just can't work as fast as you used to, difficulty concentrating, remembering, making decisions, insomnia, or early morning awakening, or oversleeping, low appetite and weight loss, or overeating and weight gain, thoughts of death or suicide and suicide attempts, restlessness, irritability, persistent physical symptoms that do not respond to treatment. So, depression has a wide range of symptoms. You can either be getting too fat or getting too skinny, getting too much sleep or not enough. And so it seems to me that it would be a really hard thing to treat. It's not like you can, okay, they're eating too much, to tell them to eat less. Well, this other person is depressed and they're not eating enough. So there are several things that contribute to depression. But one thing that I think is very key that touches the root of depression is this quote by A.B. Curtis, a cognitive behavioral therapist, and also the author of Depression, a Choice. He says, "Depression is just a feeling of helplessness. We're not really helpless. When we feel like nothing matters, that's just a feeling. Things and people do matter. When we feel like we can't go on, that's just a feeling. We can go on." And so I'm here to tell you that depression is a problem that starts in the mind and the feelings. It's not something very tangible, but it has tangible effects. And I'm here to tell you that depression can be overcome. So, depression can be overcome, and one thing that is the problem with depression, which is the problem with many things in this world that aren't going the way we want them to, is the flesh. And the flesh can be like our self and our sinful desires, things like that. It's when we decide to do things through the flesh, there are generally three ways that we make those decisions. There is through the senses. So, okay, I know this feels good, so I'm going to do it. All right? And I want to eat that ice cream because I know it tastes good and it feels so good, so I'm going to eat it. That would be making a decision through the senses. So that's kind of like how it feels. Then there's material things. I really want that boat, so I'm going to buy it. Or if I have this kind of bag, then I'm going to have a higher status. So I'm going to buy this kind of bag. That would be material things, what we have, what we want. And then there's ego, like, I'm going to do it just because I can. Like, sure, there's not really a reason. Have you ever seen someone and they're doing something crazy and you're like, why are you doing that? You're like, because I can. That's the flesh. These are the ways that the flesh decides to do things. And these have a certain effect on your life and lead you a certain way. But there's another way to make decisions, and that is the Spirit. And the Spirit guides us through reason. So does anyone have their Bibles with them? If you do, you can open to Isaiah chapter 1, verse 18. And the first one there, can read it for me. 1:18. Thank you, Shannon.
Isaiah 1:18 says, "Come now, and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool."
So how is it that the Spirit helps us make decisions? He says, come now, let us reason together. The Spirit wants us to use our mind and reasons with us to think things through, to do things logically. Another way that the Spirit can help us make decisions is through our conscience. Can somebody read John 16, verse 8?
John 16.
John chapter 16, verse 8.
And when he has come, he will reprove the world of sin and of righteousness and of judgment.
Yeah. In some versions it says he will convict the world. So the Spirit convicts us. It gives us conviction to make the right decisions, helps lead us in what is good or what is not. And when I think about depression and making decisions and having these feelings, I started thinking about, okay, so what are some biblical examples of depression? And can any of you think of biblical examples of depression? Saul, yeah. The one that came to my mind first was the disciples, actually. They were depressed several times. One time that they were depressed was before Christ died, when he started talking about him being crucified. He started to try to warn them and let them know, and they started to get down and really discouraged. And as I was looking into this, why were they discouraged, and how did Jesus deal with their discouragement? I found in the Desire of Ages where it said that Satan's craft is most successful against those who are depressed by difficulties. So that makes sense. If you're depressed and you're down, Satan's going to be able to get at you. That's one way that Satan can pull us down. And so what did Jesus do with it when they were being depressed by the difficulties that they saw? It said, therefore, he, Christ, pointed them away from the things which are seen to the things which are not seen. So of the two ways of making decisions that I've shown you, which one would you say were things that are seen and which are the things that are not seen? Would the flesh be one and then the Spirit would be the other? Which one would be things that are seen and which would be things that are not seen? Yeah, flesh would be the things that are seen and the Spirit would be the things that are not seen. So when Jesus' disciples were depressed, what did he direct them to? The Spirit. That's what he turned their minds towards. And so I think that in our own lives, we can make that same choice to turn our minds towards the Spirit. And making this decision is key. I think something that's really important about depression is to realize that there is a battle for the mind between the Spirit and the flesh.